So my name is Sasha, Zanko basically, since I'm Croatian, but here in the States where I'm right now, I would say Sasha Zanko, so for everyone to understand. And at the moment I work at the College of Architecture as MCHAP program coordinator, and MCHAP stands for Miss Crown Hall America's Prize. This is an award that was established 7 years ago when Villaretz was coming here to be a dean, and yeah, it's unique in the world of prizes, I think, because for the two things. One is it's definitely driven by academic initiative, and secondly, it's trying to connect the two worlds, connect the worlds of North and South America in terms of seeing what's the kind and what's the best of architecture happening on those two continents. So this is what I do now. I do that from the beginning. I was actually in a team that initiated the idea, and I think it's a great project. Yeah. Obviously, I'm not what it would be considered to be a typical architect, deeply embodied in a building world. And in a way, I knew it from the beginning. I did remember myself even in high school years, since I was a very good student, and then in Europe, and specifically in Eastern Europe, everyone is going to university. So it's not a question of money, it's just a question of your desires and your choices. So looking at myself, I was kind of considering architecture as something which is very broad. And since I was not also capable to decide, being 18, what am I going to do for the rest of my life, I had this feeling that this is getting from art to mathematics to whatever, even physics and stuff like that. And honestly, I do believe that's what I proved to myself. This is what is happening. Yeah. So this is when I then go to study architecture. Since I was living at that time in Zagreb, there is no, at that time it was the only university, only faculty of architecture in Zagreb, my hometown. Well, now there are more, and I'm even helping to initiate some of them. But those were my beginnings. Yeah. The story is really funny and simple, and me being a good student in a high school, we did have art book, and art book Damjanovka was the name of the book. And then, you know, it's the art book, and then you learn about everything. You learn about Greek temples, about first Altamira cave drawings and stuff like that. And then going fast forward to what we could call modern era, then I bumped into the iconic houses of Frank Lloyd Wright, Falling Water, and Corbusier, Villa Savoie, with this bathroom shaped shower. And somehow I was in a way shocked and thinking, wow, those things exist. And yeah, that somehow ended up being in the world of architecture. No, not reference in my family, absolutely not. No. When you say origin, I would prefer in a way to talk about identity. It's a kind of my professional private identity, right? So origin by birth is definitely from in Croatia. But I think if I would then say what is forming me, making my identity, both private and professional, is the fact that I was lucky enough living in Southern or Eastern European country, then moving to the Netherlands, which is this rich Northern European, absolutely Western civilization country. And then finally, now last decade, I live in America, even Americas, because I was lucky enough, because of MCHAP, to really experience a lot of South America. So I would say that for me, and I'm super excited about it, actually looking at how I'm changing with changing of those contexts. Also, what is interesting, I move with my family. So whenever I go, I never live in international. I mean, yes, of course, I'm international, but I don't really dive into the world of internationalism. I really prefer to live in the street, right? In the neighborhood. I have two boys, they go to local school, they speak local language, or whatever is the local language, and whatever is the level of their language skills. And I think that finally everything is, this basic life is everywhere the same. Some things are better here, some things are better there, but you grow. You grow because you add, going back to the question of the origin, every time you add the layer of a new culture, and that's fantastic. And this is what I really feel, even professionally, and in my specific way of actually being a kind of cultural management, that it helps and allows continuous development if you're open to the change and if you're open to embrace the context around you, whatever it is. The answer to the question of the people and places who influence me, it is connected to the fact and a little bit to your previous question of the origin. Since I do start my conscious professional life in Croatia, and I chose architecture as my field. So, and then School of Architecture in Zagreb, and we talk about late or mid-90s, and one of the fact there was a war there, but that was not that important for me and my development. So the school was stuck in a history insisting on being glorious with the modernist architecture from 30s. And everything was stuck there. I mean, nothing was really happening. So I did not really, which is weird, on my 5 years studying there, from my real mentors, I did not get so much, but the mentor, the one person that popped up there, it was, at that time, he was not even professor, he was working more like on a, he was a young professor there. Vedran Mimica was one of the guys that was, he studied at Zagreb. He was working at that time in Zagreb University, but he was already working, and one of the persons established Berlage Institute in Amsterdam at that time. So for many students in Zagreb, Vedran was actually giving us the light of something different than this steady environment of non-moving atmosphere of School of Architecture in Zagreb. I mean, Vedran Mimica later on became my partner in life, but yes, he's one of the persons that definitely influenced me a lot. Then later on, as a young architect, I was working in many offices in the city of Zagreb during the war time, so it was complicated to have practice there. So you're trying to find your way out, and one way and another, one of the persons that influenced me a lot is connected to Croatian context at the time after the war. It's the process of privatization and process when actually this socialist communist property is becoming something else. Country is opening, we are changing from one system to another. And there was a guy, he was actually kind of Croatian tycoon at the time, and very simple. I mean, you know how tycoons are, right? So kind of at the edge of the criminality, honestly, but those are at that time developers. And then me as a young person, architect, you know, you try to be there and to try to really participate. So in a profession, if you want to, and in a society. So I ended up connected to run office for him. And to me, this was a really extremely interesting experience. And I think, I mean, the guy was primitive. They were walking around even with the guns. I mean, no, nothing so super romantic about it. But also what I realized when I was working for him, I had a need to contact some officials because he has ideas of opening the east entrance to city of Zagreb because he's going to invest, make some things and developments. To me as a young architect, this was super interesting. I mean, to hear those ideas about how my city is really going to change. And I felt, okay, I could do something about it. But then you would have those official urbanists and planners not really want to talk to this guy because they are on other side. So then you see actually this, if you really want something good to happen, you can't have those two sides of artists, architects, cultural people on one side, and then you have the rest of the life on the other side. I mean, you need a dialogue, you need to educate, you need to communicate, and finally you need some kind of policy and some kind of tools to make these contacts and communications. So this is somehow that started to ring the bell to me. And I mean, the guy ended up in a prison. I went to study my master in University of Amsterdam. I ended up in the Netherlands. And that's actually the person and the moment that in a way formed the way I was started to think about the architecture. And I ended up in cultural projects, writing ideas, asking for European funds. One of the super interesting projects and one of the persons that influenced me is she was the director coordinator of the International Rotterdam Biennale Festival. When I was the one applying for the creation project, so we get some European funding, I was coordinating it. The project was about to see what is the sustainable development models of the Croatian coast. The name of the person was Christina de Baan. And then I see Christina as someone who maybe this is what I would like to do in life. You know, someone who is actually putting all those stakeholders together and then making some kind of exhibitions and forms and making exchange around that. So that's maybe Christina. And then I ended up in Chicago, and I mean I was super lucky to work like people. Kenneth Frampton, it's such an impressive figure and mind in every aspect. Sarah Whiting as well. Those were all people being MCHAP jury members, and you just feel the power of the intellect of those people. It's incredible. Then also again, me in school is lucky having MCHAP and people like Gustavo Trabo from Brazil, Peso and Sofia from Chile, Vone from Mexico, and all the Productora guys. I mean, that's really a blessing. I learned a lot. So and I see that I have opportunity to meet those people again and again and again in this context, and this is again why this cultural project is so important. I mean, not only for me, but for everyone involved in the moment. I mean, we all get so much. Yeah. To me, maybe of all the places, it was in Sao Paulo, Lina Babardi Glass House, and Lina Babardi's Sesc 24, the first one. I mean, when I saw this, you know, the first one in Sao Paulo, it's just amazing. This public space, the way it was created, designed, but at the same time, the way it is used, like nowadays, 30 years later. Usually those public spaces, wherever I am in the big cities, even in cultural Western, Northern Europe, you will have a lot of graffiti, a lot of vandalism. But the respect for Lina Babardi's and Sesks in general, not only hers, the other projects of Sesks, is incredible. So that could be maybe the places that impressed me the most. But at the same time, Lina Babardi Glass House, it's not the place to live, but it's a place you are impressed with. Maybe like a Farnsworth House of Miss van der Rohe, which is the same place. Maybe you could make this comparison. It's honestly, as a house, well, questionable, but as a place, it's incredible. Yeah. So I'm still MCHAP program coordinator, and we move forward, which I think is a big thing, honestly. And I'm taking a pride in it that it's actually, we have too many awards nowadays, and I think that MCHAP is offering a little bit different perspective, having it curated and maybe even more in more traditional way than before. So that's where I see my future, and I'm really would like to see it established for the years to come. So how do I do that? I'm working in Crown Hall, definitely Miss van der Rohe masterpiece, I think. And just to come here and work every day, it's incredible. So, and Chicago is an amazing city. So this connection with the lake. So what I do, I just drive along the Lake Michigan in incredible lake shore. You have 8 lanes highway along the lake, but at the same time, it's beautiful. You wouldn't believe it. I mean, it's a car, but it could be there. When I was introduced to the idea by my partner that we are going to move to Chicago, and then he was sending me some pictures, and then I saw this 8 lanes driveway. I was like, oh my God, how could that be? But it's beautiful, and I live very close to Lake Shore, and yeah, I'm every day enjoying Chicago beauty, coming to work and being here with my co-workers in a Crown Hall and doing everything needed to have MCHAP running. So that's what my day is. And yeah, then later on I come home and I like to cook. Recently we moved to me unknown, incredible masterpiece of Henry Wies, to me unknown, one of the great architects from 70s from Chicago. And yeah, we live in a small apartment here, his office designed, and it's fantastic. It's a piece of Finland in Chicago, and I'm so in love with Henry Wies as an architect. So yeah, Chicago is a great place to live. You know, so what I see now is, since it's a promotional tool after all now, and its awards exist to say something, and in this case promoting the school, promoting the idea. So when I'm following our presence in media, social media, websites, our responses, I see actually maybe there is more interest in Southern American younger practices for MCHAP, I mean just looking at the followers, than maybe in Northern America. I see that from the responses, right? So it's interesting, and I think it would be good to do something about it. It's to make more of a connections, to raise more of interest, and then I don't know. We could go into the reasons why. There are many reasons, most probably. Why do you have? Yeah, one of the reasons is you have younger South American practices that they see also opportunity to be connected, maybe to teach, because part of the prize is teaching in United States, in our school. But also, I think it has something to do with the tradition and culture, which is, I would say, that the northern part of America could benefit from. I think there are much more cultural initiatives of that kind in Southern America than in here. So I would like to see this idea taking more root. Like, also what is very new for America is having a Chicago Biennial, right? So yeah, it's different directions, and obviously it's not, and maybe it will never be so influential and important like whatever, Venice Biennial. And there are, again, a lot of biennials all over the world. But I think that those are worthy initiatives, and I would like to see them more and more connected and more powerful with the message in both worlds. Yeah. I think what I hear, and not only you, there are many students which I would say, and I feel they are grateful that MCHAP happened, and I even heard them saying that, because there are many. So how MCHAP works with students, MCHAP itself as organization is working with students, helping, and through that students are having opportunity to maybe dive deeper in what MCHAP is saying and offering, but also and they also have opportunity to, which it would not happen, to have this incredible young architects from both Americas teaching here. So that's, I think, academia is slow, and it's good that it's slow, and it is the reason everywhere. And academia is everywhere in the world complex, complicated, and structured in a way that it's not very ready to embrace the change. But I think this capacity of young architectural practices being here in a school, teaching, working with students, it's incredible. That's one thing. But the other thing, I think, which is more connected to me, is that I think I experienced quite often with students being shocked and surprised that there is another ways of dealing with architecture. You do this like cultural management, or you went into the publishing world and you still feel fulfilled. And that's I think also one of the benefits of MCHAP. Yeah. And this is a good position. I'm not, and you're asking me something, but I avoid to do that. I'm not comparing anymore. I'm more taking than comparing situations, because if you get into situations of us and them, and this and that, I don't really think it's a good idea. It's this synthesis is actually what is perfect idea, because things are different and they should be different. I mean, that's definitely. But what I could say from my experience is that, and I see that maybe now changing, but when we started to travel and I was meeting all those architects, maybe mostly from Latin America, because maybe they're more open by the culture again. And then I would be surprised by this idea of insisting of looking to the connections to Europe. You know, they would, if you're there, they would look to Spain and Portugal and proudly trying to find connections and similarities. Here, on the other hand, it would be England, France, this architecture. But what is, to me, everywhere, what is the best is actually to really, and this was your question from the beginning when you said, what is your origin? And then I said, well, origin is one thing, but the question is, what is identity? My identity is also really accepting all those layers that are there. So what I think now for Americas, for both of them, what is the best thing is what is typically American. And it is not connected to Indian culture, indigenous culture. It's not connected to British culture, to Spanish, Portuguese. It's something which is happening as we speak right now. And I think this moment is maybe even coming with the new generations, with the new waves of how maybe something a little bit even going to populistic ideas and insisting on decolonialization a little bit too much. But it's a very interesting moment we live in. And to find this point, it's something that I think that many offices are doing in both places right now, if not getting into total commercial services, which is also important and possible, right? Yeah. So I don't teach, but I was always attached to the world of academia. I think from when I left my tycoon guys, I was in a way connected to academia one way or another, right? And even my master was in environmental management, and honestly, the moment when I was there, it was 1999. I was, in a way, I ended up doing my master, but I was asking myself, what am I doing there? Because we were actually talking about agriculture and the pollution from the cows, pollution from the pigs, and everything I was thinking has nothing to do with me because I am an architect, therefore I deal with the cities. So, as I said, I was always attached to academic world, and what I did more is actually using the power of academia and the power of the thoughts that could be developed within academia to include them in cultural projects. So basically what I would do, I would be a machine trying to find the idea, then trying to use the students that would actually be producers of the utopian projects. And then what I would do, which is also good, I would make the teams and find the funding for those projects. So I think it's the way of teaching for students as well. And that was maybe more case in Europe. This is what I was doing in Europe, because I think it's a common practice that you have schools engaged in a real life projects. Here a little bit less, but I think this is changing as well. And MCHAP again is one of the generators of this change. So what did I learn? I think I already answered that question, and I learned a lot from students, but also I think they learned a lot from MCHAP again as different way of practicing architecture and still actually doing architecture. So what was maybe the hardest part of my career is maybe the easiest way to explain to this is just to find a way to feel good in my professional skin, since so many times I would have to explain myself to myself and to others. Okay, I'm an architect, but there is always this but. So it took me a while to actually and to realize and be content with exactly the kind the kind of work I do, and I really see how it was built up, where is it going, and I see potential of it. It's just kind of it's exactly the professional path I think is ideal for me. Yeah, it's not 100% consciously chosen. You will go through life and then you actually intelligently has to use your chances and not be disappointed with things that really it was not impossible to happen. But I think that to get to this balanced situation in life, when you said, okay, that's exactly how it should be. Yeah.
And what about something that you wish to learn in the future?
So what I wish to learn in future, I hope I could develop even more. I mean, on one hand, it's and that's also the tricky part, because on one hand, what I do, MCHAP program coordinator, it's very administrative job. I mean, but every job is administrative. You sit on your desk and then kind of look for creativity in all of that. And I think I'm having it, I'm getting it, and actually I would like to develop even more, and I hope this is possible, to grow, right? To grow as a person, as a professional, and I hope it's possible with MCHAP and all these influences getting from the prize, from the people around it. So yeah.